Leapers, and welcome back to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Albie, and we're here with Brian Greene. And we are so fortunate to have the wonderful, fabulous, beautiful, intelligent, kind Deborah Pratt. How you doing, Deborah?
Good morning. At least it's morning here.
We're fans. Yeah, it's late night here. So tell us where you are. I'm so excited for you.
I am in Uganda, Africa, and I am on a tour with an amazing man, a travel expert named Peter Greenberg. So he is shooting a show about Uganda, and I get to be part of it. So not on screen,
That is amazing.
back screen, behind screen.
We are here to talk about the 11th episode of season 2,
Yes.
The Outsider, directed by Deborah Pratt. This is your second director credit for the new Quantum Leap series?
Yes, it is.
Tell us all about it. Yeah. How did you get this episode? When did you hear about it? Tell us things.
Well, we knew we were going to do another one. I knew I was going to do another one, and we waited for the strike to end. You know, we shot the first 8, and then we waited for everything to come back up, and so they gave me one. They seemed to give me the ones that are highly emotional, which is great because to me those are the closest to the original Quantum Leap series, and it's a great story about a woman's comeback who's lost her career and lost her courage, and I think Nadine Ellis does a brilliant job on pulling it off. The entire cast just nailed it from the audition going forward, and we got to shoot all over the Universal lot. There's a spoiler alert if you're listening to this before the show airs, where we shot at Bates Motel. So if you ever go on the tour,
I saw that.
That's kind of cool.
So cool.
And actually, here's a bit of trivia. The gentleman that's inside with the phone when she makes the phone call plays Norman Bates at the tour. So if you take the tour, you know, he's going to come after you with a knife. Nicest man.
Wow.
I apologize. I couldn't do his name.
Yeah, that looks so familiar, and I was like, "Oh wait, they're on Universal lot. Oh, that's the Psycho Hotel motel. That's so crazy." So was the Psycho house right behind there?
Yes, it is. Had to shoot low to make sure we didn't get the family dwelling behind.
Yeah, Nadine, she was amazing. I thought like we found our next leaper if we ever get a third series. She was just that good.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people say she should get a spinoff, and that should be her series. An investigative reporter in 1986, I think it was. She's an incredible actress. From the moment I saw her do that audition, I knew that's who was had to be Connie, and she just did a great job. I'm really happy with her. The entire cast.
I think she and John Marshall Jones should do a series by themselves. The character Davidson, I loved.
Oh my God, he's so good, and there was some fans. You know, some of the actors grew up with him on his series, and so there was a little bit of gushing going on, including Ben, including Ray. And I'm trying to think of who else. I think Caitlin too knew him growing up, and a couple of the writers. So he was a little bit of a rock star on the set, which was great. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a TV show right there. Kind of the beauty of Quantum Leap for sure.
Yeah, I would totally watch that. Were you involved in all the casting? Is that how that works as a director?
Absolutely. You know, a lot of times, sometimes if the studio has an actor or a big name, especially that they want to push forward, that, you know, sometimes you have to take a back seat to that as a director. But for the most part, you choose everything. You approve wardrobe, you approve casting, you approve locations, you approve, you know, it's your picture. And the beauty of Quantum Leap, it's a new movie every week.
Yeah.
Because of the strikes, when did you get this story? When did you know what script you're directing? Was it a very compressed process?
Well, the story was in the works, you know, early in that sense, but it changed quite a bit over the course of things. We got a first draft from Rami, and then notes from Dean and Martin, and then they brought in they brought in Margarita, who's an incredible writer. And Margarita did the final polish and made the changes and just tightened it up. And, you know, we talked about the making it more suspenseful. I really wanted, and she really wanted it too, to have the edge of a Michael Clayton kind of story. And it's an important story in the sense that we're dealing with what big pharmaceutical companies and big agricultural companies do to us. And their bottom line is it's cheaper to put this product out and let people die and deal with the costs of paying their medical bills. And that's a sad thing to be, but it's a truth. When you look at companies like DuPont, who are still out there doing it. And there's one that closed recently, went out of business finally after years of torturing people. But it still happens. And to have the opportunity to call it out is always a great quantum leap story. And then, you know, we've got the parallel story of what was happening back at headquarters. And I got to really work. It was one of those shows where I was able to find a true dramatic moment for everybody in the show, for Ian, for Magic, for Caitlin, for Ray, everybody in the show, even Jen. And then also our guest stars, James and Peter, got true moments in the show. So that was really exciting. And I really enjoyed drawing them out. That's the other thing that I think I am given latitude just because I'm old school and they respect it.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment in the records room where Ben says, I never knew you wanted to be a reporter. And she says, you know, I've got my secrets. And they connect back together, I think, in that moment that they've been apart since the beginning of the season. And that's the moment that they reconnect. And I really got to take the time to let it happen. And they were beautiful on taking the direction and playing out the chemistry of what had happened in the beginning, what made them fall in love with each other in the beginning. So that was a real moving piece for me. And I think the same thing when Connie comes out of Dennison's office and she's given up, she's quitting, and she just falls apart. And as a matter of fact, the studio said there was one take that I absolutely loved, and they went, "No, wait, that's way too dramatic." I said, "It's a 10 o'clock show. It's a drama. What are you talking about? It's way too dramatic." So we ended up using the version, but she's excellent. She was excellent in every take, so they couldn't take anything away from her. And then in the van, there's another wonderful moment with she and Ben, where Ben, you know, says, this is just the beginning. You haven't ended your life. You've just started it. And she was so vulnerable in that moment where you think I can do it again. And he said, yeah, you're going to need a producer. So, I mean, it was just really well written and well done and well performed. And I think we captured it. So I felt good as a director capturing all that. And then there were a couple of things that I put in there, like a Dutch angle when he gets knocked out. And that was really fun. And usually the network and the studio hate that kind of stuff, but it worked. It absolutely worked. It wasn't just random. And the tension of, you know, his spidey senses came out. I said, I want you to feel like your spidey senses have come out and you think you're hearing something and you think, and then you're right. So it was a fun show to shoot.
It was a beautiful episode, and I mean this in the best possible compliment. It felt to me like an original series episode. I think you could have slated, you know, Scott and Dean right in there, and it would have worked the same. Like the emotion, the heart was there, and I was like so amazed watching it. And then I was like, "Oh yeah, it's Deborah, of course."
Of
Thank
course.
you.
There was a moment, like you said, in the file room with Ben and Addison, and they pause and they just look at each other, and then you know, and that came across so beautifully.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying so.
It was perfect. So.
Yeah, I really wanted that, and I thought it was really important to establish them again. And Caitlin's speech about, you know, first you left and then you died, and I had to deal with that. I thought she nailed that with so much emotion, and so you really get to understand who she is in that moment of what's been happening to her. We've been so with Ben, we never get to be with her and her emotions. So that was her moment. And I thought Ray was brilliant of how he played when she finally tells him the truth. I got engaged and then I got unengaged. So
That was probably one of the best moments of the episode. I really loved Drunk Ben, and I loved Caitlin in this episode. Caitlin nailed the whole episode, and she just had this. It was crazy. She had this joy. She was emanating this joy that, like, the possibility of being with Ben again, but without playing like smiling and happy. But it was there somehow. It was.
she's a
How
good
did you direct
actress.
all that?
And, you know, it's
Yeah.
usually the second and third year where you really get to get into the ensemble characters, and you get to go deeper into their feelings and their worlds and their um, emotions. And so I really wanted to take advantage of that with her. And I think we did. I really do.
And
Sure.
probably the best moment all season for Mason was that scene with Peter. Tell me about that.
We talked about the scene, and they originally played the scene sitting. And I said, I think you want to stand up. Let's find a place where you just stand up and tell Tom the truth about why you did everything you did, and that you really aren't ashamed of it. And they nailed it. The emotion that was there,
Yes.
the anger, but also the compassion of why you do something for someone that you care about. So, I mean, Mason is an incredible actor, and they go there all the time, but I don't think the show has given them the opportunity to express that kind of, passion.
Strength.
So I'm proud of that. I'm
Exactly.
proud of that.
Hopefully they see what they can do, and there's more of that in the future. Another moment I really loved, and I noticed like how well it was done, was when Addison and Tom say goodbye, and there was some nice shots in there, and I noticed some kind of like, did you shoot through glass or something? There was like a nice little tiny reflection if you look,
Oh yeah,
and it's just beautiful.
Anna is an amazing director of photography, and we've shot the headquarters so many times in so many places, and I said I want to find a unique way to look at it. And so she moved some of the ziggies and some of like the back ziggies, and there's a glass door there. And she shot through that door and lit so that it got that filtered effect. And it was romantic and touching and soft. And there was a lot of pain going on in that scene from both Tom and Addison, trying to figure out how to say goodbye. And I let them play it a couple of different ways, but we chose the one where they were grateful for each other, but they were sad, and I thought it'd been beautifully set up in the other episode at Princeton, where Tom said, I miss my wife. And you really got the feeling of he's next chance at happiness is so close. And then when he played that scene in the hallway where in the main headquarters area, where Addison tried to talk to Ian, but they walked away, and Tom says, I'm the guy from the Department of Defense, and but the moment when he said, I think when you look back on this, if you keep staying in the past, you'll never get to the future. So he was fighting for her. And I think she was realizing it too. And and each step of the way, that's what I loved about the script. Each step of the way took it another step closer, another step closer, another step closer. So we got to understand each of those characters. So it was a real character episode. I mean, besides the drama of what was happening in the league itself. And of course, James's Gideon is fabulous. And I really wanted
Yes,
him to, I asked him to play the child man. And you'll know more about why when I say that. But he, just opening on the close up of the Newton's game and letting him play it as a spoiled rich billionaire tycoon person comes across like all of them to me. And he really captured it, I thought. Good cast.
definitely.
Yeah, amazing. A lot of the season long stories like come to a head in this episode. Was that a lot of pressure, or did you feel complimented that they gave it to you to wrap up those things?
Oh, I felt very complimented. And truthfully, that's just the beginning of the wrap up. I think that's why we're going next week to do a double header. And you're going to get your minds blown. Get ready. um, but
Very
yes,
cool.
I felt that I was trusted with some important storytelling information, and Anna Abogadu made it beautiful, and everybody came with their A game. There was just every performance, and I wanted to make sure that was shown in the storytelling process. So we did it. I think we did it. We'll see what the fans say.
Where did the title "The Outsider" come from? Do you know?
Uh, I did not ask the writers that, but I think it's always a double entendre when it comes to Quantum Leap. Ben is the outsider that comes into the situation, but I think Connie was also the outsider coming into the situation. And then James was an outsider coming into the situation. So there was a lot of
Yeah,
change that was unfolding. And but those three key storylines, I think, helped define what the title was about and what it meant, and how it was allowed to play out. So,
that makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
But I have to ask Rami and Margarita if there was a specific take on why. But I think that's really what it was. It was just all these people who were coming from the outside to solve a problem. And even Robbie, who's a bit who is a whistleblower. He's at the heart of it, but he can't live with it in that sense. So
Hmm.
it's smart stuff, to say the least. It's great for
Yeah,
the kind of audience that I believe the Quantum Leap viewers are. They're highly intelligent. You don't have to tell them what's happening. You lead them down a path, and they figure it out probably as fast as you do, which is great. And you don't tell them whose side to stand on. You just say, "This is the story. How do you feel about it?" And they feel about it. I was reading some interesting commentary on Reddit, just kind of popped up in my feed, and they were talking about, somebody was saying, well, I was watching the original series and they were using the N-word a lot, and it was the episode of The Color of Truth when he left back in time. And then I responded and said, well, that was historically accurate, and people do. And the fact that we've decided to become politically correct, I think changing history is problematic, because if you don't look at what the history was, you're going to relive it in the future. So there was some interesting things in it where then somebody said, well, they've changed it in several, where they bleep it out, or they blur it, or they replace the words on several of the streamers, which I did not know about. And again, it's the political correctness of, hey, I don't want to offend you or hurt your feelings. But the truth is, when Scott so brilliantly played how it felt to have that word thrown at him, you, the audience, got to walk in his shoes. So it gave you a whole other compassionate look at, wow, that's what that feels like. So that's the history of what the show is about. And it saddens me that the courage to do it and put it out there as it was created wasn't there by those streamers. And I can't remember who they were, but that's wrong to do that in the sense. Good television, good storytelling is not about making you feel warm and fuzzy and comfortable all the time. We can get you there, but sometimes we want you to feel the passion of the moment, to feel the pain of the moment. And this show does that in a lot of senses. This episode did it in ways of a woman who is, not 30 years old, not 20 years old, not starting her career. It's ageism in a sense, but it's also dealing with what it's like to be a woman in any period, but certainly in the 80s, where you're trying to fight to be of substance and the system won't allow it. And she also gets caught of pushing so hard to be that tough guy reporter, and she pushes too far and costs the guy his life. And then to have it a deja vu moment like that, where it happens again in the middle of a story. And I thought, again, their performance in his office was so honest. When he says, "This is it," and she goes, "This is it," and walks out, and you think her life is over, and how's Ben going to get her back? It's that great roller coaster ride of quantum leaps of, oh no, it looks like it's going to get together, and they're going to make it, and then all of a sudden, zoom. So that's the fun of the show.
How did you feel like, from your perspective, going into this episode being the second of the new series you directed versus the first?
How did I feel? It's a different show. I mean, and I say this all the time. 30 years ago, I tried to tell them that Quantum Leap could do everything that Star Trek can do. Star Trek has had 9 television spinoffs, 9 feature films. Why are you waiting? Why are you sitting on this franchise? I still don't understand it to this day. And each of those shows is a different version of Star Trek. This is a different version of Quantum Leap. And I hope there are 8 more. So it's really, for me, at first, I was very protective of the lore. And then I realized, they're honoring it for sure, but they're adding to it. And so once I relaxed into it and said, all right, let's see where this goes, because here's someone with a different perspective than I had. Part of my perspective was tied to Don and his military background. Part of it was the network only giving us a very little amount of money, so we couldn't really go to the present and rarely go to the future just because of costs. And I was thrilled to finally have headquarters where you could access it, and who's there. Gushi was there, and Al went back. But the opportunity to really get into it and see where Ziggy lives, and there's the opportunity coming, I think, where Ziggy will be a much more prevalent part of the storytelling, because she is the foundation of everything that's happening, the future and the past. So to answer your question, I think it was challenging at first, but then exciting once I said, let me go with the flow. It's like on this trip, I'm riding the rapids on the Nile. We do the first run, and I'm one of the I'm in the paddle boat. So there's 6 of us paddling. And they said, when you come into the rapids, grab hold of the rope, take your oar and put it down, and get down as low as you can. And I was thinking through my mind, grab the rope, take the oar. And by the time I got to get down as low as you can, I was out of the boat in the Nile. And luckily, I held on to that rope. I did not go all the way away. And I was so exhilarated by the moment of, the water didn't feel mean, if that makes any sense at all. It lifted me very gently and just took me out, like, we're taking you away now. and I enjoyed it in a weird way after I got back in the boat. But I was like, stoked, just excited by the fact that I ran the first rapid of the Nile and survived. And if I'm gonna, like I said, I'm going to post some of this water downstream where the rapids are insane. Is that as the Lake Victoria funnels into this tiny channel to become the Nile, and I think that's us mimicking nature in a story like that. You've got this big whole wide world of Lake Victoria, but we have this whole big wide world of story. And you take that story and you find 2 or 3 people to tell it, and you ride with their emotions on it, and it gets dangerous and it gets scary, but suddenly you come out on the other end and you've learned something. So to me, this adventure that I'm on right now is really just an opportunity to look at how life is so much of nature and so much of storytelling, and that as a good storyteller, as a writer, as a director, as whatever, you want the opportunity to take your reader, your viewer on a ride, to feel what you wrote and to feel it in their own bones. So it becomes their story. And Quantum Leap to me is the best show ever created that does that every week, because you just never know where you're going.
There's some people that are getting nervous in the fan community because we haven't heard about a season 3 yet. Is there any indication either way that you could give us?
You know, that's why we have fans. So get nervous. Write to. I saw somebody did a post for a campaign to write in and say, "Don't take this
Yep.
show away." The truth of streaming and networks and everything changing the way it is. They're terrified of not having the viewership, but I've seen the numbers. We're doing really well. Thank you to the original fans that have come back. We're finding new fans because people forget this show never went off the air. It went into syndication on USA Network, and then it went into syndication worldwide, and then it stayed in syndication. So I will go into meetings, and there'll be a 28-year-old or a 35-year-old executive sitting behind the desk, and they'll look at me and say, "Oh, well, before we start, I just need to geek out for a moment because I watched Quantum Leap with my mom and my dad and my grandparents, and we would talk about the shows." And it's so heartwarming to find someone that loves the show that much. So it would be sad to take it away after 2 years, and stupid, in my opinion, Universal, NBC.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I think the fans, if they write about it, if they comment on it, that it's not like when we did it back in, or the fans did it really back in 1992. I think we had major letter writing campaigns, and it kept the show on the air. It's frustrating because we've moved it a third time already. This is our third, location. So it makes it a little bit challenging for people to find it. And because it really is a family show, 10 o'clock, at least give us 9 o'clock. We're going to move this again.
Amen.
If we do get a season 3, hopefully we get a season 3. We're trying. You get to direct another episode, right?
I'm hoping, yeah. I don't see why not.
Do you get to write any? Do you get to write any? Is that ever in the future?
I haven't. I'm still trying to do the feature films, so I have not offered my services in that way, and so I don't know. I have a couple of ideas for sure, because this show has always been pretty easy for me to write. So I have some ideas that I'd love to, of stories that I'd love to tell. Yeah.
Well, like you mentioned Star Trek. Star Trek, they just started. They're going to be starting to do made for the streaming service movies. So, is that ever in consideration, like a made for, say, Peacock movie?
It is a consideration. I mean, we haven't talked about it, only because, again, it's weird. Paramount got franchising. I don't know that Universal really has when it comes to TV. Their attitude is it's a television series. Well, so was Star Trek. Hello?
Mhm.
So I feel good about that. Yes, all those possibilities are
That's
there
great.
as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Wherever we can watch it, we'll watch your work. Absolutely. And before we go, can you tell me what you brought to this episode? Because to me, you brought all the heart, but like something that we might not know that it was your touch that did it while we watched the episode.
Well, definitely the heart, because in each opportunity that I could find for the actors, I wanted to give them a moment of drama. And I was very even-handed about that. Really went through the script and found opportunities for. I mean, I'd never seen Ernie in any of his work do what he did in this show. And to really lift them and guide them and push them a little bit to take that next chance. And they trusted me. And then just a few things that, like I said, the Dutch angle, I wanted to do that just to set up some classic film callback. I'm trying to think, there was something else I did. Well, there were a couple of things where I had to kind of create shots by taking the film and flipping it and reversing it. So there's a backwards shot here and there of something that I couldn't get because we shot it in 7 days, which was crazy. But it definitely had my stamp on it. And as one of the parents of Quantum Leap, I wanted to make sure that was there. So I did.
Job well done, flawless record. A Deborah Pratt episode is always a great episode.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
And
indeed.
the ask to have Matt Dale at the end.
Oh yeah.
Which
Yes.
it broke my heart. I got to see him this summer in London, and we were talking back and forth about his Kickstarter and how he was excited about the book, and he sent me the book, so I have a signed copy of all 3 books. And I will miss him dearly. He was like behind my new Warrior One series. I wrote a graphic novel called Warrior One, and he was giving me ideas on the network. On the website for Warrior One World. And he was just a good guy, and I'm grateful that I got to know him. And his book kept me sane in that big spans of 20 some odd years, when people would say, "Hey, let me ask you a question about Quantum Leap," and I'd go, "Oh my God." And I would open that book to whatever show it was, and all the details were there. And it just made me remember so much of doing the original show and carrying it into the new show as well.
It's
That's
an
amazing.
amazing moment, and we're all very grateful that you were able to do it.
Thank you. Universal stood behind me. Martin and Dean stood behind me. Everybody wanted it, once they had known who he was and what he had done. And like I said, the studio and the network, who rarely will do that, understood how important he was to all of us,
Yeah.
And he makes you appreciate what you do even better. You guys are great at it, and I love coming on the show, and I think jarring my memories, not just about that, but about this show, not about just about the original one, but about the new series as well. You all bring that 100% to the table, and I think the fans appreciate you as much as I do, if not more.
Deborah Pratt, thank you so much for giving us some of your time while you're on this amazing adventure in Africa. We so appreciate it.
Oh,
thank you so
mine
much.
too. And anytime I do anything Quantum Leap, I'm here for you. You know that.